والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فلا يضر إلا لنفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. Indeed, it's blessings of our Creator that He brought us together for this congregational prayers so that we could collectively remind ourselves that Inna Hudallahi huwa al-huda, that the one who created the universe is the only one who is capable and who is qualified to give guidance to human beings. Because human beings, they divide themselves on the basis of various issues, and often they tend to take sides of their own groups and their own ethnicities and their own cultures and their own religions, and hence compromise on the interests of humanity as a whole. And hence the Creator told us, وَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكَ مِنِّي هُدًى فَمَنْ تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. That if and when you find the guidance coming from God and you follow that guidance, you'll have nothing to worry, nothing to fear. And this was the simplest message that was shared by all the messengers who were selected by God to relay His message to humanity. And for that particular reason, the prophet, the last prophet, according to our own belief, Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ensured that the words that he was claiming to be the words from Allah is preserved in his own lifetime in writing as well as in human words. And he's described as Rahmatul lil Alameen, the one who is merciful to humanity. He told us that each one of us will have to go back one day to our home, that is life after death. And each one of us will be asked, اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. That when you came to this world, you were given an empty book and you were writing in that book with your own actions and your own deeds. And now is the time to read that book and decide and determine what your destination will be. And he also told us, Inna lil-muttaqina mafaza, that those people who are conscious of God, those people who are disciplined, those people who are responsible, indeed are the ones who are successful in this life and the life hereafter as well. One of the issues that Muslims, not only in this country but all over the world, are focused on is unity or lack of unity among Muslims. And often it is argued that the Muslims are disunited on the basis of various issues. And often we quote from the Quran verses after verses and the sayings of the Prophet telling us how important it is for us to be united. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold fast to the rope and guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not split among yourselves. Or the Quran also tells, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ فَرَّقُوا دِينَهُمْ وَكَانُوا شِيَعًا لَسْتَ مِنْهُمْ شَيْئًا. Those people who split themselves on the basis of their religious identities and they form their own separate groups, showing superiority of one over the other, are indeed the ones who have split into a party, and you should not deal with them. Or the Quran tells us that inna hazihi ummatukum, He made you not to despise each other, but to know each other. Or the sayings of the Prophet that the believers are like a comb, the teeth of a comb. Or they are one body, and if one part of the body is split, then the other part definitely feels the pain. Now the question obviously comes that why is it that Quran, or the creator of the universe, is emphasizing unity of the believers? What is the purpose of that unity? Is it to create another group that would dominate the world, that would control their mind, that would control their resources, and that would dictate their terms upon them? Is it for the purpose of political empowerment? Is it for the purpose of controlling the hearts and minds of people? Or what is the purpose? And in that particular respect, the Quran gives us specific instructions. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kunu qawwamina bil qist shuhada'a lillah walau ala anfusikum aw al walidain wal aqrabin in yakun al aghniya wal fuqara. That those who believe in the divine guidance must ensure that they remain committed to the ideals of justice. They remain committed to justice in its absolute sense. And even if that justice demands that you take a stand against your own self and against your own parents, against your own relatives, against your own close ones, regardless whether they are poor or they are rich. In fact, this is the verse that Harvard University's School of Law selected out of the 23 quotations that are there on the School of Law's walls, in addition to Magna Carta, in addition to many other, that has been described as the ultimate verse of justice. That you have to take a stand on justice, and that is the purpose of your being a religious community, your being committed to the divine guidance, divine ideals and divine guidance. That is the purpose of the unity of Muslims. That is the purpose, that wherever and whenever injustice is committed against any human being, regardless of the religion, regardless of the ethnicity, and regardless of the groupism and factions, the believers who believe in the divine guidance must take a stand and must stand for justice. When we look at our own history from the perspective of this Quranic verse, we find that throughout human history we have been lacking in that particular aspect. We try to create unity on different bases. Sometimes on racial basis, sometimes even on religious basis, sometimes even on the understanding of the way we worship God, the way we pray, the way we fast, and all those things. But our Prophet told us that if you are not united on the issue of justice, your prayers and your commitment to God is meaningless. Many a times people came to the Prophet telling him that this person is very pious, this person is very committed to the rituals, this person is very committed to remembering God, and the Prophet's response was, is he or she just to the neighbors? Are these people just to their own people? So when we look at our own history, we find a paradox. A paradox that we have become selective in choosing the issues that are related with justice. Take, for instance, the issue of slavery in this country. And we should not hesitate to say that there were Muslim owners of slaves who were involved in the trade of slaves. Justice had demanded that those who call themselves as gatekeepers of Islam should have questioned that practice, should have stood up. And the ships carrying those slaves were passing through the straits that were controlled by the countries that call themselves Muslims. They should have created a blockade. But we did not. We compromised on those things. Not only on the issue of slavery, on the issue of gender, on the issue of financial justice, on the issue of social justice, on the issue of communal justice. We are not up to that standard that the Quran wants believers to be. Kunu qawamina bil qist. You have to take a stand on justice. And it is not justice for Muslims alone. It is justice for everyone. And justice requires at least 5 essential elements to be present in our quest for absolute justice. That every human being would deserve a dignified existence. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have given dignity to the children of Adam. Not the children of Muslims, not the children of Arabs, not the children of Ajam, children of Adam. Every person who is in the universe deserves a dignified existence. And whenever the rights of that individuals are denied, regardless whether they belong to this gender or that particular gender or this group or that group or this race or that group, it becomes the responsibility to claim themselves to the believers in God to take a stand and to take a position. It doesn't matter whether you are effective or you are non-effective. Sometimes political powers determine your effectiveness. But at least you should take a position. If no one listens to you, speak to yourself. Talk to yourself. But you must speak. You must take a position. You cannot be neutral. People of all races, people of all colors, people of all religions. And what is the dignity? And the Quran explains the dignity means that individuals would have a right to choose for themselves what they want to choose. Even if that means rejecting God, that right has to be accepted. Because that is between them and God. One cannot deny them that right that God has given them. Even if that means that a person is creating something new, something different than what the common beliefs are, that person has a right in the divine scheme. So that is one thing, right to choose oneself, using one's own mind. Then, economic justice, that the people have a right to earn from the resources that God has created in this universe. None of us came to this world with a deed from the God that we would own this land, or we would own the air, or we would own the water, or we would own the most essential resources that God has created in the universe. Each one of us has a right to live and to make use of those things. And if anyone denies those rights to individuals, basic necessities of human beings, that would force them to compromise on their own identity, and that would force them to compromise on their own entity, then there is an act of injustice. When the poverty is created artificially as a result of the improper distribution of the resources, as a result of improper opportunities for people to live a decent and dignified life, we must speak. Doesn't matter whether they are from this race or that particular race or this group or that particular group. As the Quran says, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. He is the one who created the basic sources of sustenance to all human beings that He created in this universe. So if you find anyone in those kind of situations, and you're not speaking up, and if you're not thinking that what is happening is wrong, and what is being done is not right, then definitely it is not in line with كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ شُهَدَاءَ لِلَّهِ. Shuhada'i lillah means that you be witness to the eternal guidance that God has given in terms of standing up for the dignity of human beings. The third, that people have a right to choose their own religion. Islam did not come to eliminate all other religions, and never Islam made that. There are references in the Quran which say that we created the divisions, that the divisions are there. People will choose their وَلِكُلِّ وِجْهَةٌ هُوَ مُوَلِّيهَا فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. Everyone has its own direction. Your direction should be to outdo others in things that are good, that basically refer to the issue of justice. And that is the question that as human beings, as believers, we must ask ourselves, that where do we stand in our relationship with issues of justice, not only in this country, but anywhere in the world. Humanity cannot be divided on the basis of the boundaries. You cannot say that my rights are better because I live in this country. The others do not deserve the dignity of that justice. My responsibility, even though I am not in a position to make sure that the justice remains the supreme aspect of my faith. And then prayers, God means anything, and all the rituals that we follow as part of our faith means anything. Without justice, they are solved. على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد النبي اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل the Prophet and those who were the true followers of the Prophet, who took a definite stand on the issues of justice and who often risked their life in defense of justice. The incident that I want to highlight is the incident that took place before the Prophet was given the prophethood. He was given the prophethood at the age of 40. But this incident took place when he was 32 years of age. What had happened that in Mecca, where the Prophet lived at that particular time, the trade caravans used to come, and one such trade caravan came, and one of the chiefs of the Quraysh, or the tribes, abducted a young girl belonging to that particular tribe. Now, the father, who happened to be the chief of the visiting tribe, approached the leaders of Mecca and asked if anyone could intervene. And no one, because the person who had abducted belonged to a prominent tribe. When the Prophet heard about it, he alone went to the house where that girl was kept, stood outside, and demanded that the girl should be released. Otherwise, he would even offer his life in defense of that particular girl. 50,000 Muslim women were raped in Bosnia. And there were not many people who stood up. And that story is being repeated in different parts of the world, under different pretexts, under different names. Doesn't matter whether they are Muslims or they are not Muslims. It's happening. So we take a position. People are denied their basic rights in different parts of the world. Basic rights to live as human beings. Do we take a position? We take positions on the basis of our assumed identities as Jews, as Christians, as Muslims. And then simply say, well, it has nothing to do with us. This is sectarianism. This is justification of the perpetuation of injustice. Imagine if those who claim to be the believers of God, regardless of the labels that they put on themselves, if they come together in defense of human beings and human entities, regardless of their ethnicities and regardless of their color, regardless of religion, it doesn't matter whether they are Palestinians, they are Jews, they are Kashmiris, they are Hindus, they are Muslims, and at least demand that these people deserve a human existence, human dignity. How better our world would be. But rather than focusing on that unity on the basis of justice, we create divisions and we focus on divisions and then leave the real issue of the divine guidance aside. He tells us, the divine tells us, that if the purpose of the people was to worship him, that the malaika and the angels were there to worship him 24 hours. The purpose was that as human beings, we should not be subject to exploitation, we should not be subject to any kind of discrimination, we should not be subject to any kind of humiliation, no matter who we are and where we come from. And that was the responsibility that was placed upon those who claim that they are believers. So the unity that we're talking is a unity that is for the purpose of justice. It is not for the purpose of the domination of one over the other. It is the equality of human beings. It is the in defense of the rights of everyone, that the rights that God has given. And if we don't, then those who define human rights according to their own image and according to their own interests would dictate their terms upon us. And as it is happening, on the basis of whatever interests they claim to be, our agenda has been shifted. So the students, as people who are still in the process of exploring the universe and exploring the knowledge, it becomes our responsibility to go back to the purpose of the unity of the faith itself and to recommit ourselves to the issues of justice and pledge to ourselves that no matter what, we would not let our own historical, cultural, religious biases come in our way to stand for justice. Whether at the smallest level or at the global level. Even if nobody hears, we will tell ourselves that injustice is wrong. And that is what the purpose of our existence as a believer is. So let us pray to God Almighty that He enables us to live a life based on the values of the divine guidance that call for justice for humanity. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. ولذكر الله تعالى أعلى وأولى وأهم وأتم وأكبر. أقم الصلاة إن الصلاة